Innovative City Forum, the Japan Foundation Asia Center session, Innovation for Happiness, is now starting. First of all, I'd like to introduce the speakers for this opening session. From Indonesia, Mayor of Surabaya City, Ms. Rismaharini. Photographer and film director, Ms. Mika Ninagawa. From ArtScience Museum at Marina Bay Sands, Executive Director, Ms. Harger. And the moderator is Mr. Fumio Nanjo, Director of Mori Art Museum. So over to you, Mr. Nanjo. Hello, everybody. Today is the third day of Innovative City Forum. Innovative City Forum is in its fifth edition this time. Its scale and size have expanded very much, and we have over 70 speakers this time. Before today, because I believe some of you are joining us today for the first time this year at the Innovative City Forum, we started our discussions 2 days ago. On the first day, we had the symbiosis and augmentation, very major two themes, and various people had the discussion in workshop. And day two, yesterday, urban planning, biotechnology, and World Economic Forum's session were held on various themes. Various workshop sessions were held, and I was participating in a discussion about the question of whether or not artificial intelligence will be able to create art. It was a very stimulative discussion, which inspired me with a lot of ideas. The society is going to change in a lot of ways, and with technologies, and what will be our future and our roles. That is at the center of our theme at ICF, and how to create and develop cities, and for what eventual goal we will be doing so. We possibly will be for the happiness to be brought about to the human beings. That's what we are going to discuss today. Today, we are doing this session in conjunction with the Japan Foundation Asia Center. And at the initial opening session, we are going to have 3 speakers. And with those 3 speakers, we will have some conversation. We will reach at 2:35. Then we will have talk sessions from 2:50 to 4:20. We will divide into 3 breakout talk sessions, and there will be broad frameworks of time, place, and community. And in each of the breakout sessions, on each specific themes, the participants will be having a discussion. That's the structure. For those 3 speakers that we are having at the opening session, I would like to introduce them briefly once again. Ms. Rismaharini was elected in 2010 as the very first female mayor of Surabaya City in Indonesia. She is serving already her second term as a mayor, and with a very unique method, she improved very much the environment of the Surabaya city. Utilizing over 300 parks, Ms. Surabaya improved the environment of the Surabaya city. I'm sure that it will be very interesting to listen to talk to her. And the second speaker is Ms. Mika Ninagawa, a photographer and film director, and also is a member currently of the community of the bidding committee of the Tokyo 2020. And currently there is an ongoing photo-based, picture-based, photography-based event in Roppongi. And this year, Ms. Ninagawa is the main artist in that event with a very large size of installations. And Ms. Ninagawa is going to talk about the cities and art. And I will join her from the middle of her presentation. Third speaker is the Ms. Harger, Executive Director of ArtScience Museum at Marina Bay Sands. And Ms. Harger is originally herself was an artist. And today she is going to mainly talk about the activities of Asian artists to talk about the environment and that we are living in. And then we will have a panel discussion and all together. I now would like to invite Ms. Rismaharini onto the stage.
Good evening, distinguished moderators, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak in this innovative city forum and share with you about initiative we do in Surabaya, Indonesia to create happiness. Please allow me to deliver presentation about Surabaya City, Indonesia and its development. I would like to start by explaining that Surabaya is the second largest city in Indonesia after the capital city of Jakarta. Out of the total area, around 60% is in a form of kampung or urban villages. Previously, kampung was known as a slum area under service and is home of low-educated people and criminals. Learning the situation, the first initiative I took as mayor is to improve the condition of kampung in Surabaya. Among other strategies undertaken are including improving the environmental quality of the area by teaching and inviting people to take part in waste management, and then we improve the sanitation and infrastructure in there. In cooperation with City of Kitakyushu, Japan, we start educating people to manage the solid waste and liquid waste in kampung. Organic waste is turned into compost which people can use to fertilize their own plants, including flowers, vegetables, and it's also impact to the reducing volume of garbage goes into landfill. Now, kampungs can shape the development of the city, and they can also promote many kinds of problems. After improving their life quality, we improve their quality of education, among others, by providing public libraries all over the Surabaya. Currently, we already have 1,500 libraries spread in the city. Secondly, learning the limited number of police officers we available compared to the big numbers of population, we invite the people also take part in keeping public security starting from their own area. We also have non-smoking and anti-drug kampung to prevent people from drug abuse, and they have special area for smoking. We also provide them with sporting facilities in kampung. In order to control population growth, we implement family planning program and support them to grow business to improve their income. We have old kampung, where people preserve heritage by maintaining old buildings as well as preserving traditional games. Because Surabaya lies as a coastal line, fishermen needs to be well cared for. Therefore, we rehabilitate fishermen kampung situated in coastal area by improving its condition and making it cleaner and more beautiful. Now they can enjoy an increase in their income as reflected in a better growth of their business. A new bridge was also built to preserve this area while being a new tourism destination in the city. As part of our environment program, Surabaya people have been able to raise their awareness to importance of managing garbage. They can now see the garbage as a valuable thing. We implement the concept of 3R, that is reduce, reuse, recycle, and our people are used to using recycled product and use old materials in their daily life, such as making garbage bin from used tire, document folders from reused plastic, used can for plant, Christmas tree from used plastic, and other kampong decoration. Every year, we regularly organize a fashion show where people can wear clothes from recycled materials. We call that transition or from trash to fashion. Not only in the kampong, the concept of 3R is also implemented in school and government offices. Through the independent community-based management, people sort garbage from its source and they can sell the organic waste to the waste bank located all over the city, including in kampongs. There are now 260 units of waste bank and total customer of more than 16,000 people making turnover 11,000 US dollar per month. Waste bank are also available in school. Through in this program, people can generate additional income out of the garbage. While the inorganic garbage is sold the waste bank, the organic one is managed into compost. We have 26 unit compost center and 1 super depot in Sutorojo that is built cooperation with City of Kitakyushu, Japan. This composting method can reduce 60 until 70% of volume of waste in the city. We built clean and beautiful sidewalk with drainage system underneath because Surabaya is relatively hot at night. People love to go out on their house and walk along sidewalk to get some fresh air to socialize with the other citizens. In addition, Surabaya city government built 372 public parks covering 94 hectare area as a public space to relieve stress and place for people to socialize. Each park carries specific theme that is different one another. For example, we have talking park where we install sensor to enable vision impaired people enjoying the park. We have also park that was previously a disposal site. Jogging track, playground, and free Wi-Fi access are available on the parks. Street vendor center is also available in park to improve local economy and to control the hygienic of the food and sold. Another theme of our park are including senior citizen park, palliative park for cancer patients to get together and share story. To beautify the city, flowers are planted and as much as 35 hectares of green lines is available. We fertilize our plant using compost as the result of waste management. Through all this environmental management, we can see a decrease in volume of waste disposed to the landfill despite the increasing number of population. In addition, the index of air quality is increasing, while rate of the disease caused by bad environment keeps decreasing. Previously, our teenagers loved to make scratch everywhere, in vans, power people, and so on. Therefore, we facilitate them with special space for mural and some places in the city. As a result, their murals make Surabaya more beautiful and colorful. In 2010, the first years I assumed as mayor, 50 of the area is flooded. Then we built big and better drainage system and no to regular dredging. Now it's only 3% of total area is flooded or equals with 1,228 hectares. In addition to managing the solid waste, people are also treat the waste water using simple, low-cost equipment. This installation can be found in 60 locations and is able to save up 14 till 20% of volume and cost of water usage for month because the gray water resulted from the treatment is used by people to wash motorcycle of car, watering plant, and so on. The use of solar cell And renewable energy enable us to reduce energy consumption. Although the number of lamps installed is increasing, the energy consumption is decreasing or is under control. Our future initiative to improve people's economy is by creating a program called Economic Heroes, where we invite housewives, especially from poor families, to start a business. We start with only 89 SMBs in 2010. Now we have 6,700 women SMBs growing in Surabaya. We provide them with the necessary training and facilitate to grow their business. Especially for young people, we have the program of Young Warriors, which facilitate young people to also start business in their interest. There are now more than 600 group of young people joining this program. We cooperate with youth creative group, and they help to improve the products, packaging, and branding quality of our SMBs. To support those talented young people to start business, we build co-working space that we can use for free to develop their ecosystem and grow their startup. On the other side, the city government builds for 60 street vendor centers all over the city to accommodate street food sellers and provide them with better place to sell their product. By selling in the center, they can enjoy an increase in their income as people feel more comfortable to buy foods in there. Also, we develop business kampung program in which one kampung has one local product. Urban farming is also a solution for a limited arable land available in the city to farming. We have 39 farmer groups and 45 fisherman groups doing urban farming. In total, they can generate income to $742,000 per month. In order to provide more positive activity for the youth and to curb juvenile delinquency, we built 361 sport field, while to prepare our people facing globalized and digital era, we built broadband learning center where people can learn IT and internet for free, including to train about online marketing for business owners. 1,900 spots of free Wi-Fi available all over the city to promote healthy internet and provide easier access for people to get government services. A language house, a foreign language learning center, and mathematics house where students can learn mathematics and in a fun way, and to build statistical thinking are available free of charge. At least the big number of population in Surabaya has posed challenges for city government to provide better, easier, and faster services. That is why we use electronic government system in all of our administrative and public services program, starting from budgeting, planning, monitoring to licensing and citizen documents and issuance, such as birth certificate, death certificate, marriage certificate can be applied online. People can apply online using their mobile phone, and the document will be sent directly to their home address. We also established in a command center 991 emergency call number that integrates all departments in city government and working with police department to help handling any report from the public and in immediate manner. The problems reported to this number is very unique. We don't only receive report on emergency issue, but there are also reports when the water service is off, street lighting is off, drainage is closed, and so on. There was even a case of a citizen calling 112 and asking our help to transport her children from home to hospital where his husband is hospitalized. There are even people reporting their domestic problems, and we will provide psychologists to help them and to do counseling. Distinguished guests, my dream is to make Surabaya is a home for its citizens, where people feel comfortable living in the city and everything they need is available within their reach. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Next, may we call upon Ms. Ninagawa, please.
Konnichiwa.
Good afternoon. This is Mika Ninagawa. I'm not used to standing in front of this kind of an audience. I'm just an artist. I'm not good at speaking. But let me talk about the work that I've made. And recently, I've been doing a lot of work in the Greater China area. And so I would like to talk about the significance of working in Asia from that experience. So basically, I'm a photographer. That's where I started. And I've made 2 films. So I'm a film director as well. And going on, I have plans to make some more. And my activities have widened. I've been doing a lot of new things. I have so many followers amongst the artists. Well, my belief is that I want to be accessible. Even those people who are not interested in art, I want to engage them. I think that is one of the main themes that I have. I've published more than 100 photo books, quite a large number, I believe, amongst Japanese photographers. And I have done 111 solo exhibits. I've done many exhibits overseas as well. This is from last year. In Taipei, I did a solo exhibit. 130,000 visitors came. Much appreciated. Taipei is a very small city, so it became a sort of a social phenomenon, and it was covered widely in the news. This was a big event for me. So even people who usually do not go to art museums, they thought this might be interesting. And so I think I was able to create a chance for these people to come in contact with art. And from 10th of November, I'm going to do a big exhibit in Shanghai. So that experience in Taipei led to more activities in Asia. So this is going to be the biggest exhibit of mine that I've ever done. And so I'm busy preparing for this. Compared with what I do in Japan, I am selecting work with this idea in mind that this is for the Asian audience, and that is the interesting part of this work, and I find it very exciting to prepare for this. Let me talk a bit about the films that I've made. This is the first one. It's called Sakuran. It's about a girl in Yoshiwara who becomes an oiran, and there is original comic which it is based on, and it takes place in the Edo period, and it has been screened in various film festivals like the one in Berlin. So I have met many people who took interest in Japan after watching this, or who took interest in me. So I think I was able to reach a wider audience than the usual art audience. I think because of the movies, I think I have been able to expand my activities to Asia. So I think movies is a very interesting media. So I have many young Asian fans who came to know me through this film. This is the second film that I made. It's also based on a comic book. It was screened in Taipei, and recognized widely in Asia, also in London, New York, Toronto. They were screened. And what's interesting is that in China it was not screened, but people watch it on the internet, or they have the pirated DVD, and so many people tell me that's how they watched. So I think that is one Asian element. And of course I want them to watch through the official channels, but that should not hamper you and that's part of doing work in Asia. I think it's important that you first have people actually come into contact with your work. So half of my work now is in Asia, Marie Claire in Taiwan, or Elle in Hong Kong. So these are magazines in Taiwan and Hong Kong, China. So again, China and Hong Kong. So I do cover photography for IRA. It's a weekly magazine. So every week I take a photo of a famous person. Some are people from overseas or famous actors or politicians, all kinds of people. I do ads, commercial photography as well. This is Nanjo. It's a Chinese historical drama, and I did the visual aspect. And so there was the Senkaku Island issue, and at that time, and the relationship between Japan and China was not so good. But I took these pictures in Beijing at that time. People were worried about me, but that's where you have the strength of culture. On the ground, of course, there were no problems. I was welcomed, and I was able to make this together with the Chinese staff. That was a very impressive experience for me. So culture and sports, these kinds of things, they transcend boundaries and it connects people. That's what I felt in this photography shoot. So talk about myself. I make these kinds of clothes. And so I collaborate with the Isetan department store to make this line of clothing. I also do wedding dresses. I also design Japanese kimonos based on my photography. Technology has advanced so much that you can reproduce photos on these kimono clothes. So there is this technology in Japan where you can print on silk high quality photographs. This would not have been possible several years ago, but with progression of technology, I was able to collaborate with this Japanese traditional apparel of kimono. And also I collaborate with other foreign brands. And last year, there was this Sports Culture World Forum, and in it, there was, Amo Miyamoto, the producer, made this production, and I produced this Edo scene. So I'm wearing a kimono myself, and I have my photographs in the background in a slideshow. I wish I could have shown it in a video, a very fancy show that was presented. This was also from last year, Tokyo Dochu performance. So there are girls in prostheses, and so there are some disabled people. They join in this dochu, this parade. So this is something that I produced. And I also do various things at the Isetan department store. So this is an intersection of the city and art. And I think this is one successful case. Dogo Onsen is an onsen or hot spa, which has long history. They did a collaboration with me, so they had a bus with my design. And onsen is a cultural heritage. It's a very old building, but I put up a screen there, and I designed a yukata so that people walking the streets can wear this kind of art. I also designed some rooms, hotels, ryokans, restaurants, lobbies. I was able to decorate with my work. A bit difficult to see perhaps, but on the shoji screens, I put up my photos, and it was like a lantern at night, very beautiful. So about twice the usual number of people visited to come see the art. So even those people who did not know me, who were not interested in art, they were able to encounter art just by walking in this city. And I think it's important that you provide those opportunities to experience this, so make it accessible. They will then be interested in me and my work. So that's a starting point to come to contact with my art, and their interest may spread further. So I think that is one achievement that I was able to feel with this. So I produce various parties. This is a sento, or the public bath. So I do a wrapping. It doesn't look like a public bath any longer. This is a collaboration with the Sumida Aquarium. This is in Shanghai. There's a cafe bar. I did the interior design of that cafe bar. This again in Shanghai. This is in Singapore. On the Sentosa Island, there is a hotel attached to an aquarium, and I designed the interior of the suite room at that hotel. This one is an entrance to a condominium. So I have photo books and other artwork, but with these kinds of projects, I'm able to infiltrate the streetscape, and that opens up various opportunities. This is a makeup room on the basement floor of a building in Shibuya. So you can breastfeed or do makeup there. So this is a wrapping of an aircraft for Air Asia. They said they were going to fly in 2017. They've been saying it will fly soon, but it hasn't yet. I'm hopeful, though, that in the near future it will fly. This is Shinkansen. It's called the Genbi Shinkansen. It's not just me. I do the exterior, but the interior is also the art space. It's a moving art museum. So when you travel on this Shinkansen, you can feel the art as you travel to your destination. It's a very popular train ride now. This is wrapping of a car. So I do a lot of these kinds of transport projects. And so this is one room in a hotel in Kyoto. I used cherry blossom to design this. So I'm going back and forth. I take photos of geishas. And this is the Roppongi Art Night that I did recently. It's an installation that I did. So it's the image is the Future Asian Festival. So people can come in and take pictures. And many people went in there and they took photos and they uploaded onto their SNS. And then that would connect to other people. And that is the art that I wanted to make. So all around the town of Roppongi, I did various, or I set up various installations. And what I found very interesting was that people walking about in the streets, they were engaged in the art and they were having fun. That impressed me. So some people think art is difficult and they're not interested. They just don't have the opportunity to come into contact. If the town is filled with art, that gives them an opportunity to experience art, and it becomes an entrance for them to enter this world. So this is, again, Tokyo Doju. This has evolved, and so healthy and disabled people work together, do various interesting performances. We put on a pretty astonishing show. It's an extravaganza. So the image is a neo-Asian. It was very positively reviewed. I think it triggered many people to start thinking. Children were seeing dwarfs for the first time. And I was hoping that this would provide an opportunity for people to feel that the world is flat. And I think over several weeks I have achieved that goal. And I do other things, do a lot of work in Asia. Sorry for the unorganized talk, but that is what I do. Thank you very much. Okay, I don't have to talk with Mr. Nanjo. May I end my talk? Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Honor Harger, it's your turn.
So good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you here at the final day of the Innovative City Forum. I want to say a sincere thank you to Nanjo-san and all of our hosts for the invitation to be with you today. My name is Anna, and I'm the director of ArtScience Museum in Singapore. And today I'd like to take you on a bit of a voyage through a series of visionary landscapes devised by artists from Asia, often working in dialogue with scientists and technologists. These landscapes are created by artists that we've worked with over the years at ArtScience Museum, who are responding to the widespread transformation of their natural environments. I'll begin by briefly introducing 3 artists from different countries who depict natural worlds transformed by urbanization. And then I'll focus on 2 major projects which are currently on show at ArtScience Museum, one in collaboration with an artist from Singapore and the other with an artistic collective from right here in Japan. And they give us a glimpse into how innovation might be employed to make our world a happier place. Firstly, a bit about me. So I'm the executive director of this place here, the ArtScience Museum in Singapore. And our museum explores the intersection between art, science, culture, and technology. We believe it's in the space where these areas meet that we see new ideas and innovation. We like to say it's the place where the future is made. We create exhibitions that feature some of the most well-known artists working with scientific concepts, such as Leonardo da Vinci or M.C. Escher. We also show works which are exploring aspects of science, like particle physics, astronomy, and new advances such as robotics and biotechnology and big data. At ArtScience Museum, we craft exhibitions, programs, and experiences that show what happens when artists and other creative people are thinking just as hard about science and technology as the engineers and the scientists are. So we position ourselves as a place to reflect on how the future might be shaping up. And in the past 3 years, we've worked with many artists who use art and technology to explore the transformation of the environments where they live. In 2014, we showed the work of Shanghai-based artist Yang Yonglang. Breathtakingly large and beautifully realized, Yang's composite landscapes critique China's rapid urbanization. His digital photographs resemble Chinese landscape paintings of the Song dynasty, with their broad vistas, overlapping mountain ranges, and misty atmospheres. But upon a closer look, these landscapes are revealed to be digitally constructed, using urban images of Shanghai. What seem to be mountain ranges, hills, trees, and plants are actually formed by urban structures like skyscrapers, highways, electrical towers, and construction cranes. Yang has in fact constructed an artificial world, a metropolis disguised as a natural landscape. The results are masterful and hypnotic, whilst being shocking at the same time. Yang's work is intended as a statement on the sweeping geographical and physical reconfiguration of China's natural environment. In 2015, we exhibited another artist whose work addresses the transformation of landscape and the dialogue between the natural and the artificial, Singaporean artist Donna Ong. Donna's work combines poetry and science, domesticity and nature. She has an innovative approach to her artistic mediums, taking us back into the dreams and nightmares of our childhood. Nature is a frequent topic within Donna's work. The tropical forest, especially how it's depicted and cultivated in her native Singapore, is a source of inspiration and fascination for her. She's created a series of projects that explore Singapore's quest to define and construct its national identity through the forest. Singapore's large public gardens, national parks, and numerous green spaces are part of its ambition to become a city within a garden. In her work, The Forest Speaks Back, which was commissioned by ArtScience Museum, the tropical forest was used as the inspiration for architecture. The sculptural forms of the installation visually represent Singapore's pragmatic approach in the construction of its urban landscape. Donna's work highlights the artificiality of Singapore's man-made forests and gardens, noting the irony that in some cases pristine natural forests had to be cleared in order for these new urban gardens to be constructed. Donna's work contends that Singapore's greening project is actually an endeavour to conquer the unruliness and messiness of nature. Last year, the museum presented a work by the Vietnamese artist and filmmaker Trinh Nguyen. She creates artworks that explore hidden histories through moving image. Her work often depicts the environmental and social-political reality of her native Vietnam. In 2016, she was the winner of the Digital and Video Award of the Prudential Eye Awards, which we showcased at ArtScience Museum. And in fact, the previous year's winner was Chimpom, who is speaking later on today. The winning work for 2016 was called Letters from Panduranga, and it addressed how the landscape and culture of Vietnam are being transformed. Vietnam plans to build the country's first 2 nuclear power plants right at the spiritual heart of the Sham indigenous people. They may threaten the survival of this ancient matriarchal Hindu culture that stretches back over 2,000 years. Nguyen's film presents intimate portraits of the individuals and communities in this area, stunning panoramas of land and sea, and insights into sacred spaces. The film operates in a netherworld between documentary and fiction, gradually drawing our attention to the cultural and environmental consequences of a possible nuclear disaster. So these 3 artists draw attention to the often negative transformation of the natural environment in which they're based. However, a new project launched at ArtScience Museum this year aims to transform the environment in a more positive way. Working with a team of artists, technologists, and environmentalists, we created Into the Wild, an immersive virtual adventure. We've transformed 1,000 square metres of the museum into a virtual rainforest, which can be explored using augmented reality, and a projection-mapped installation by Singaporean artist Brian Gatong Tan. The project's a major collaboration between ArtScience Museum, Google, Lenovo, and the Worldwide Fund for Nature. Visitors explore the rainforest using a smartphone device and cutting-edge augmented reality technology. The forest is scientifically designed to resemble a real rainforest in Southeast Asia. Visitors meet the forest's inhabitants, interact with them, and carry out tasks that help the ecosystem. Then, after learning about the challenges the rainforest faces, visitors plant a virtual tree within the museum. And for every virtual tree planted, we plant a real tree in Southeast Asia. Central to Into the Wild is the restoration of the rainforests in Southeast Asia, which are under constant threat from clearance, poaching, and fire. Fires in Southeast Asia are now recognised as one of the world's gravest environmental disasters. During the burning season, up to 10,000 fires can be raging at any one time. This is a Google Earth view of the fires in Southeast Asia from 2015, which was one of the worst years on record. And you can see Singapore right here, with neighbouring Sumatra and Indonesia almost completely obscured by thousands of fires. These forest fires produced in just a couple of weeks more carbon emissions than the UK's entire output for a year. The human toll of these fires is also significant, with some NGOs estimating that these types of fires could cause up to 100,000 premature deaths. The smoke from these fires is a source of what we call in Southeast Asia the haze, which is a major problem for many cities in the region. And to give you an idea of what the haze is and what it's like when it's bad, this is a view of where I work in Singapore. You can see the ArtScience Museum in the centre here. And this is what it looks like on a clear, normal day. And this is what it looks like during the haze. This is smoke that's coming directly from the burning forests. And you can just imagine what the toll this is taking on the environment and the wildlife in those forests. So what we wanted to do was to encourage our visitors in Singapore to think about the socioeconomic reasons for these fires and to empower them to take an active role in defining the future of their environment by replanting the rainforests in our region. We're specifically focusing on this area in Indonesia, which is called Ringbambaling. It's just 100 kilometres from Singapore, and it's one of the last strongholds of the critically endangered Sumatran tiger. Working hand in hand with WWF, we've identified a region of Ringbambaling which is home to all the endangered animals which feature in the Into the Wild experience. This is the last place on Earth where mouse deer, tapir, orangutan, pangolins, and the critically endangered Sumatran tiger all coexist. What VR and AR and the imagination of artists enable us to do is to bring the rainforest into the heart of the city and create an experience of connection and empathy between our visitors and the animals that live in the rainforest just 100 kilometres away. When our visitors plant a virtual tree within the museum and accompany it with a pledge to WWF, a real tree will be planted in Ringbambaling in Indonesia. So far, over 5,000 trees have been planted. So we're not merely aiming to augment reality, we're trying to improve reality. Which brings us to the final example I'll share today, Future World, where art meets science. This is the permanent exhibition of ArtScience Museum, and it's realised in partnership with Japanese artist collective TeamLab, who I'm sure many of you know. Together with TeamLab, we set out to make something that was more than a traditional exhibition in a museum. We wanted to create a new universe, a world that would change and transform over time, that would respond to each and every visitor, and that would draw people to visit again and again. The result of that dream is Future World. It includes artworks that use both art and technology to bring us inside natural worlds comprised entirely of digital media. When we opened a year ago, we presented this ecosystem of flowers gently blooming and dying. The artwork was both generative in that the plants were created live, algorithmically, and reactive in that they responded to the presence of visitors and changed based on their behaviour. The installation depicted the 4 seasons in real time. So over the year that it was presented in the museum, our visitors could explore spring, summer, autumn and winter, which is something of a novelty in equatorial Singapore. By physically positioning us inside the landscape, TeamLab invite us to understand that nature is something that includes, enfolds and embraces people. There is no separation between ourselves and nature. In the second gallery of the exhibition, we showed 100 Years Sea. In this artwork, TeamLab visualised the rising sea levels caused by climate change. The artwork is made based on scientific data derived from the World Wide Fund for Nature. which predicts the rising of the world's sea levels over a century, starting in 2009 and ending in 2109. The 100-year period was compressed into 10 minutes in order for visitors to understand the full impact of climate change on our oceans if urgent action isn't taken. So jumping ahead here, we're in about 2060, and you can see already the inevitable impact of the rising of the sea levels if climate change continues at its current pace. And later this year, we'll be installing a new version of this artwork, which shows the data in real time, giving visitors an eerie encounter with the consequences of climate change as it happens. So this exhibition is a place to reflect on the natural world. Visitors of all ages can create their own natural environments through touch, movement, and collaboration, and begin to understand themselves as part of a visionary landscape. At ArtScience Museum, one of our core philosophies is that if we're going to begin to address the key systemic challenges the world faces, then we need both the understanding generated by science and the emotional connections made possible through art. Artists in our region have the power to create profound emotional and philosophical impacts on audiences. When we consider some of the urgent issues our societies face today, the ability to create these emotional effects becomes significant. Global inaction on the greatest threat humanity faces, climate change, stems partly from our disconnection with our natural environment. The belief that we're somehow separate to and apart from nature has become an existential issue. One of the key skills of artists from our region is their ability to create meaningful connections between people and their environments. To address some of the challenges we face today, we need to understand that we are within and not outside of the natural world. The work we're doing within our exhibition spaces at ArtScience Museum and within our natural environment in Southeast Asia is our way of helping to generate that understanding. The artists we're working with are taking one step beyond depicting visionary landscapes. Using their imagination and new technological innovations, they're helping bring about a happier world. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。それではただいまより
We would now like to start the panel discussion. The panelists are kindly requested to come onto the stage.
So それではよろしくお願いいた
Please start. Thank you. We have 30 minutes for panel discussion. Having listened to the presentations, I would like to ask you to ask questions amongst you, and let's engage in a discussion. And toward the end, we would like to also field the questions from the floor as well. So if you have any questions, please take notes so that you can have the opportunity to ask questions later. Now, the last two presentations were mainly about art, but the first presentation, Tree-san, talked about urban development, city building. But the method that you have employed is considered to be very creative. And recycling has been a major focus, and various ideas were utilized. So waste can be revived into something with value through the process of recycling. And therefore, you can do without waste, and this is something that can only be realized through creativity. And more than 300 parks with different themes is phenomenal. It's very surprising. So, Tori-san, why did you think of using so many parks? Did you get this idea from Disneyland? Tori-san is going to speak in Indonesian with the consecutive translation.
So because of high temperature, Surabaya people usually had a high temper. With city park, people Surabaya getting more friendly and have a clean environment. And Surabaya city now relatively more open and more friendly. City park usually had a theme. So Surabaya people can interact each other, socialize in the park. In elderly park, for example, there is a facility for mahjong game, for chess game, and for reflection massage. In palliative park, there is people with cancer, and every month we also facilitate with a doctor, also a singer, that has also a story to make them happier.
But how did you make the decision? How did you decide the park for cancer patients? But does that mean that people living near will not be able to use that because it doesn't have cancer? Or cancer patients will have to travel from far away? Isn't that a problem?
There is no program. They gather usually once a month. They use usually a wheelchair and sometimes to pick up with a special car, because they usually suffer and has to be accompanied by the doctors. And in other days, the park usually used by other people.
If that is the case, so it's like an event that you are conducting. So for cancer patients, to provide special service in a certain park, can you have the same event in another park for cancer patient? Do you do that as well? Well, so if you have the service for cancer patients, do you have it in other parks as well? Is it always the same park in which this service is provided, or do you provide it in other parks as well?
It actually to give honor to people with cancer, but every park also accessible for disabled people with some facilities with Wi-Fi. We also have a park with people that cannot see, with the blind people. The park usually it can talk. You know, the theme is talking park.
And that service is only dedicated to one park. So for the visibly impaired people, the service is only provided in one park, or is it rotating in other parks as well? Or is it just for one park only?
Principle, the park cannot be used and accessed by everyone, but for the cancer people with cancer, they have a special park to give honor for them, and for the blind people as well.
一つだけね。
Just one. Only one?
わかりました。まあ、蜷川さん、ハージャーさん、if you have a question, please, you know. 特にない。
大丈夫です。
Questions at this time? I also wanted to ask you that the murals are very beautiful. We saw it in the PowerPoint presentation. Indonesia has been famous from the past. You have a tradition of murals in Indonesia, I believe. So perhaps you have young artists coming together and say something critical about the government. And sometimes that has happened in murals. Is that a problem? When you have the murals, do they create something that is critical of the government? Is that a problem?
Sometimes they criticize us by the mural. There is some picture that criticize me regarding my hardness to run the city.
でその時にはその
And at that time, do you erase the drawing, or do you leave it as is when it is critical?
That's okay. I just smile.
素晴らしいですね。
That's really wonderful. Then, Ona-san, Ninagawa-san, if you have questions, please engage in dialogue amongst you. So, Ninagawa-san, I don't want to be the only one asking questions. Ninagawa-san, you have given us many examples. And I was thinking about the word mobility. That's a very important thing for you. And hot springs was also very impressive. But you have focused on so much on mobility. Because even if it goes very fast, they can identify my work. It's because of the brilliant colors, I think. It's because these are things I like. And people can identify that it's Ninagawa's work. In every object, in every type of work, I'm receiving various commissioned work in this way. And it's good that the transportation devices are interesting for children as well. So it's a really good segue for children. In the Shinkansen Parallel, the toy with my design came out. Young boys are not interested. They don't have contact with my work. But through this work, they can become interested in art. And that's very interesting for me. It's not just for me, but from childhood, I want to have children to have more encounter with art. That's very important. It doesn't have to be incorporated just in education, but providing something interesting that is accessible. And Shinkansen can be considered very cool. And it's very important to sow seeds in this way for the future.
美術館も常に
Art museums always trying to increase visitors and enhance people's understanding. But why is that necessary to begin with? I think my strength is that I'm an amateur. I'm always an amateur. And if modern art, some are very difficult, and it's accessible to only a few. Maybe that's not the intention, but that's how it is. And people who think they're at the cutting edge, only those people visit. That's especially true in Japan, but in Europe, you have a lot of art in your surroundings, and you go to art museums from when you're young. So Team Labo, I think it's very open, it's very successful, and there's a lot of activity in Singapore, and I think it's being picked up in other countries. There aren't that many artists who can do that. So interface with the ordinary citizens, very open. Now, Roppongi Hills, I think, is very good because you have also this viewing platform. So they go to the viewing platform to take in the view, and then they also visit the museum. And if they visit, then they have new discoveries. So there are many guests who come for the view, but it's a common ticket, so they end up enjoying modern art as well. So modern art, difficult modern art comes free with the ticket for the viewing platform. And that is an opportunity for us to educate people who don't enjoy art. We give them an opportunity to come in contact with art. That expands the market, and that will benefit the art museum. So that's why we have this common ticket with the observatory. And art museum, the exhibit is always changing. The content of the observatory is the view, so it doesn't change. It's always the same. So you may not have many repeaters to the observatory, the viewing platform, but the museum can change its exhibit so that same people can come back. So for me, the observatory is the additional benefit. But when I come to see the art, I also go to the observatory. I enjoy the view of Tokyo, and I think it complements each other. So, Ms. Ninagawa, you said that it gives an opportunity to look at the world as a flat place. Now, your work like Tokyo Dochu, you also feature disabled people as well. Now, we're going toward the Olympics and the Paralympics. And so there's a lot of focus on art created by people with disabilities. So there is that trend. So you clearly and consciously incorporate those peoples with disabilities. How does that connect with that flat perspective and widening the entrance or the segue? How are they all connected? Well, I want people to think what is right. I want people to always be thinking, never stop thinking, grown-ups and children as well. I want them to have the power to think by themselves. Talking about myself, in my father's play, there was this dwarf, Mame Yamada. So I knew Mame-san since I was as small as Mame-san. And they talk about the erotic things and smoke cigarettes, not a saint at all. And also I had friends with prosthesis, artificial legs. So it's just that that person doesn't have a limb. That's all that is. And if you never met that person, if you never had the opportunity to communicate with them, you wouldn't know. And the Japanese people, they want to be polite, so they don't want to be rude, so they fear approaching them. And so I want to show them that they're not saints. They have these erotic moves wearing tights. So you can experience that through the visuals. and that was staged on the Roppongi Hills Arena. People were not expecting that kind of a show, and I think it was worthwhile that we were able to do that. So let's go to Ona. So you introduced us to 5 artists. What's very interesting is, well, there are people who are critical of the changes in the environment, and there are also those who are positive and accepting. So it was 2 versus 3, or 3 versus 2. I think that was interesting how you divided that. So can you explain the background to that? And also, this leads to the discussion of the role of art.
I think what I was, I guess, trying to illustrate a little bit with the presentation is that we're talking about a very diverse region in Asia. Even within our own region in Southeast Asia, we have enormous variety and diversity. And you would expect that artists would take a variety of different positions on a topic as broad as, you know, their natural environment. There's no question that our urban environments in Southeast Asia are changing incredibly quickly. We've seen some remarkable examples in Chisan's presentation of positive changes, and this is deeply inspiring. And it's also fair to say that some of the progress which is happening elsewhere in Asia is perhaps not so positive. And often removes, you know, kind of important cultural and artistic histories in the quest for, you know, kind of progress within urbanization. I don't think it's a surprise that artists would take a critical position, you know, kind of to those types of developments, particularly if they're personally affected. And I think the way which artists, if you want, voice their critique is deeply fascinating. I mean, you have to look hard to find the critique in Yang Yong Lang's work because it's presented in such a poetic and mesmerizing way, but it's actually a very tough critique, I think, of the transformation of urban environments in China. In the work of, you know, kind of somebody like Donna Ong, she's more mediating on the relationship between the natural and the artificial in cities like Singapore, which have such a love of the garden and of nature. But in order to create these gardens and these natural spaces, you have to clear away the unruly forest. And I think it's good to see artists drawing attention to this irony, you know, in a gentle way, actually. And I guess the final example that I was very kind of honored to present here was the work that we're doing in Ringban Baling, just north of where Trisan is from, to reforest a small area of Sumatra and using artists and technological innovations to kind of create the empathy needed to reforest that area.
So I follow Southeast Asian artists and Chinese artists. They're looking at the change in the environment. That's a major theme of their art. That is how I feel. And if everything stays the same, of course, maybe you will not have much to say. Now, we're living in a world where we face a lot of changes in the environment. And they're like sensors. They catch on to those changes, and they let us know and let us realize those changes through their work. I think that may be an important role of artists. And in that sense, Ms. Ninagawa, well, what do you think about that topic? So, capturing change and showing it.
It is true that capturing various things, in order to do that quickly, we need to be artists. This is my view. I am based in Tokyo, so what's happening here in Tokyo is perhaps less visible in terms of physical real world compared to other places in Asia. So I'm trying to capture rather invisible phenomenon here in Tokyo as well. But I believe that the artists basically need to be very, very sensitive, and we can capture that and those various phenomena from various different angles, which is, I think, the most important part of the and what we are doing as an artist. Honor, you are very much knowledgeable about a technology-oriented art, aren't you? And we had a various discussion yesterday about these topics, also, for instance, AI, artificial intelligence, and art. So in this era of today, what's the role of art? That's another question. And can AI create an art is another question. How do you think about these questions?
We saw yesterday that artificial intelligence can indeed create art, and I think it's important for us to remember that that technology is just tools which are made by people, and whether it's the technology of our iPhones or the technology of a hydroponic system in Surabaya or the technology of artificial intelligence, it's a tool that's made by people. And in the same way that you can use the tool of the computer or the iPhone to create art, you can use the tool, the software systems, kind of the complex network of artificial intelligence to make art. It's another tool which, when used by people, can create art. And I think it's important to see this as part of a continuum of practice which has existed for as long as tools and technology have existed, and for as long as artists have existed. Artists tend to be very open-minded about the embrace of new technologies, and often embrace them faster than other aspects of society, and therefore we often kind of see potential trends and kind of tropes of how technology might be used in artists' work before we see it elsewhere within our society.
So artificial intelligence can create art. So does that mean that the AI can become an artist?
This question again is an old question, isn't it? Because we could take this back to the development of robots and automaton. Of course, the automaton and the robot has a very long tradition here in Japan and around the world. When the first automatons from the Swiss watchmakers appeared in the 1700s, there was a big discussion about whether they were poets because they could write poetry, whether they might be artists because they could draw a picture. But the reality is that these robots were programmed by their makers, beautifully programmed, kind of exquisitely realized, but they were still made by people. And my view is that, kind of artificial intelligence is on that same continuum. It's just in a different place in that continuum.
Understood. Well, we would like to entertain some questions from the audience. So please raise your hand if you have questions. Yes, that person on my right-hand side. I am a social Richard. I'm like a Sushiro revolving sushi chain in Japan. I am an Indonesian newspaper journalist. I have a question to Mr. Nanjo. I was born in Jakarta, and Mayor Tori is mayor of Surabaya. Maybe people from Tokyo and Osaka can have analogy to people from Surabaya and Jakarta. I have a question to Mayor Tori in Indonesian.
Apakah taman itu setiap hari, kan Ibu membuat banyak taman Bu, 300 taman. Apakah itu setiap hari yang taman medical itu digunakan untuk kita tahu umum bisa masuk ke situ, tapi apakah dokter dan sebagainya setiap hari menjaga di situ untuk menjadi taman yang baik? Itu yang dipertanyakan Bu. Saya juga ingin tahu Bu, karena ini menarik sekali sebetulnya. Tolong diterjemahkan dengan baik. Terima kasih.
ちょっとね、先に質問、日本
First, the question needs to be translated into Japanese or perhaps English. So the same question? Well, which question? In the presentation, Mr. Nanjo asked the same question. Is it done daily for cancer patients, for instance? Well, the mayor already said that it's monthly, but more details, please. Is it on daily basis or?
Not only doctor that which is existent there, but also the ambulance and the nurse. Every day they are there. Also there is an official if there is people with cancer has difficulties in the park. From 9 a.m. until 5 p.m.
それは毎日っていうことなんで
So is that every day? So every day.
いいですか
Well, is that all right? So we can entertain only one or two questions. So another person? Yes, the person on the second row. Thank you. My question is as follows. In yesterday's sessions, the role of the art is to be edgy and unique. That was one of the comments we heard yesterday. Being advanced and being edgy on one hand, and on the other hand, the desire to be understood by as many people as possible as an artist. Is it compatible? Can we hit a right balance? And can we have a synergy between the two sides? Or do they go into different directions, diverging? Or is it necessary? I would like to ask the same question to the three of the panelists from the position of the artist or the director of a museum and the mayor. So the question is the same to the three of the panelists. So Ninagawa-san, first of all, please. Yes, in my case, when I create my photography book, only the cover page needs to be very simple, easy to understand. For instance, I think this way. And I try to describe with simple words. So these are small ideas, or the sunflowers one. It's very easy to recognize. It's just an entrance, and so entrance needs to be broad and it just so happened that I am reading one of the novels of Haruki Murakami once again. He's writing with very simple words, but the story is not simple at all. There may be a secret there. And Helter Skelter, an example from a movie, the topic is very complex, but Erika Sawajiri just gets naked in the film, so that can be an entrance. So it's somewhere a different place from a creation per se, but I'm working out small ideas for people to have accessibility. I don't communicate a very straightforward message in a straightforward way, saying that the love is very important. I don't say that. But the hook, I try to make a hook as large as possible. So, but you cannot say that art is this way in a very unique manner, unified manner. So, Honor?
I think it's a great question, actually. You know, can you preserve the edginess and the subversiveness of art, which is traditionally one of the roles of the artist, whilst creating, you know, kind of the topic of this panel, happiness. And I think it can be done. I think one of the reasons why I really love Team Lab's work is that when they do combine critical issues, as with 100 Years Sea, which is about the rising of the sea levels, they do this in a way which is extremely aesthetically and emotionally involving. And one of the responses, the strongest responses we've had to the exhibition was that work. And we've heard so many people telling us that it was through that artwork they really started thinking about ocean, kind of sea level rise for the first time. So I think when you can connect, I guess, the kind of subversive, edgy, kind of issue-based role of the artist with experiences that create, kind of almost a positive emotion, it can be very powerful.
Turi-san, どうですか?
Tori-san, do you have an answer to this question?
To change people in Surabaya, which is very hard-tempered, to be humble and in design in Surabaya, from pedestrian, street lighting, and park. Every year we have to change the design. Every new building and in kampung, there will be a change every year from the design. So the people can understand about the art. So they will be, like lower their temper. And it works actually. We applied many color in fence, building. Every building, even from the trash bin design.
Well,
Perhaps the question was not clearly communicated, but for example, if there is art that is critical of the government, and there is also art that makes everyone happy, between the two types of art, which is more important, or which both are important, or do you think the one is wrong? Art critical of government and art that makes people happy. Which is better?
Both are important. Sometimes people also deliver their need via mural, by their mural to the government.
Understood. I'm sorry that we've run out of time, so we'd like to bring this discussion to a close. Very delicate questions were posed, but I think we have been able to discuss and converge with the importance of art. Perhaps for the mayor, this is not your expertise, but thank you very much for responding in such a positive manner. And we will be divided into 3 groups for further discussion. Thank you very much.